John just walked in. You actually got 8. Yeah, John's here.
There's Aaron. All right. Welcome everyone to the budget meeting. And it is July 26th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Fitzwater. Graham.
Here.
Hensley. Hussey.
Here.
Kimna.
Here.
Mahalovich. Here. Prather.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Ward. Here. Wiseman. Hensley.
All right, thank you. At this time, we're going to go right into the fiscal year 2019 proposed budget highlights. Margie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At your seats, you should have a printout, and this is also something that was sent electronically to you. Just highlighting the some budget items in the FY19 budget. I'm not going to read all of these numbers. You have the numbers in front of you, but if you have any questions as we're going through here, just let me know. The first part is just a summarization by fund of the mayor's proposed budget. The total for FY19 is $65,681,530. Of that, the general fund is $32,807,390. Parks is $9,526,018. Wastewater, a little bit over $12.1 million, and then you see the rest of the funds listed. The second item on the budget highlights, the 2% market maintenance increase across the board, a total cost of $540,704. For the general fund, that is $409,320, and then you can see the effects of that 2% across the other funds to get to the total of $540,000. The third item, we have built into the budget a 4% health insurance increase and a 5% dental insurance increase at a total cost of $143,524, and of that, the general fund is $103,802. And you can see the rest of the effects on the other funds. The loggers retirement, actually the rate dropped for general employees this year from 13.2% to 12.5%. The police dropped from 18.5% to 18%, and fire increased from 45% to 46%. The net adjustment resulted in a cost savings that's built into this budget of $76,057, and of that, $35,419 affected the general fund. The next section is related to, in your budget books at the very back is the big pink sheet summary, and the items that were proposed to be funded are highlighted green, and that's what I'm going to be going over in the next couple of bullet points. So under the purchase of vehicles, which is section 3 on your big pink sheet summary, there were, the mayor's budget includes 2 of the police department's requests to replace 14 black and white vehicles, and that total proposed budget amount is $61,400.22. For planning and protective services, the mayor's budget includes 1 of the PPS requests to replace 4 inspection vehicles at a total cost of $25,000. For public works, the mayor's budget includes a request for air conditioning gas reclaimers at a cost of $11,500, and to replace a 2-ton snowplow truck at a cost of $72,000. And then under section 4, the additional miscellaneous requests, the mayor's budget includes $3,762 for human resources tuition reimbursement, $5,562 for planning and protective services tuition reimbursement, $15,615 for the fire department's policies subscription service, and $7,745 for online codification system for the city code. And then you'll see there the $500 recommended for the Human Relations Commission. Moving back over on your big pink sheet summary to section 2, the additional positions or personnel services, and we discussed this Monday, is the one new position for a school resource officer. So that new position, as well as an existing police officer 3 position that will be reassigned to be a school resource officer, will receive the 50% salary and benefit reimbursement from the Jefferson City Public School District.
Marge, I have a question about that. I know we voted on it last meeting, but the new position for the SRO, why are we increasing that by additional officers? Is that for the new school, or is that why are we increasing it in this fiscal year here?
And I think the chief had discussions with the school district, if you want to address the question.
It was actually initiated by Dr. Linthicum. He was really interested in having another officer in the schools, and he approached me. We had a discussion, and it went from there.
So this new officer, the new position, is that to go into one of the existing schools, or is this to go into the new school that's being built?
Those discussions haven't been had. In other words, we'll confer with the school district, since they are a partner. We ask them what they would like to do, and we'll try to comply with that, and there shouldn't be a problem. So I don't want to speak for the doctor.
Because I'm just wondering, in the budget after this one, will they come back and ask for additional SRO for the new high school, is my question. Okay.
I don't think that is a plan.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that was considering just contemporary issues that they're having to include the new school.
So I also want to note that we'll be getting increased reimbursement from the Jefferson City School District in the amount of around $65,000, which is half of the new and half of an existing police officer moving to school resource officer. So basically, the increased reimbursement will be funding this brand new position. It will cover it. So the next item, item 7 on your budget highlight sheet, is just once again the transit subsidy for FY19 is $1,111,636. And I'll refer you to your pink sheet summary again on the far left column, that section 1, where it has a summarization of the general fund revenues of the $32,807,000, the total general fund expenses of $31,453,985, and then you'll see the transit subsidy and the airport subsidy that then totals the $32,807,390 for the balanced budget for the general fund. And then also, immediately following that is kind of a summary of the fund balance and where we expect to be in FY19. So the fund balance, the audited fund balance at the end of FY17 is the $10,310,000. The estimated FY18 fund balance is the $5,380,375. And that is what we anticipate FY19's fund balance to be, which represents 16.4%. And I know we've got a minimum 17% guideline. So the FY19 estimated amount is about $197,000 short of being the 17%. But this doesn't take into consideration that in FY18 we're already above budget on our revenue side, and that historically we don't spend all of our budgeted expenditures in all of the different departments. So there'll be some amount put toward the fund balance at the end of FY18. And then starting on page 2 of the budget book, there's a personnel schedule that shows by department the accounts of full-time positions. So on page 8 is the totals, and I just wanted to point out that between last year and this year, there was an increase of 6 full-time positions. One of those is the new school resource officer being proposed in this FY19 budget. 3 were the new stormwater crew that was an FY18 supplemental that was passed earlier this year, and 2 are parks program managers. That makes up the 6 additional full-time positions between FY18 and FY19. Are there any questions? No? Okay, do you want to go?
Is there any other questions on this? If not, we're going to move on to the 5-year forecast. Mrs. Miller?
Mm-hmm. So at your seats should be 2 large printouts of the general fund 5-year forecast. And this is an exercise to illustrate what the fund balance could be in 5 years, holding to that guideline or policy of having a 17% minimum fund balance. So, you know, and as you all know, 5 years is a little bit difficult to predict, but there's just some general assumptions made in these documents. Yeah, so there are 2 pages. The first one, the title says no unexpended projected, and the second page says 4% projected unexpended. So I'm going to start with, and they're both the same except for the one line that projects unexpended. So I'm just going to start with the no unexpended projected first. So for the most part on the revenue lines, there are exceptions for some of these revenue lines that have no growth. But for the most part, there's a 2% assumption of a revenue increase. And under the expenditures, on the personnel services line, there is a 2% salary adjustment annually, as well as a 4% health and dental insurance increase. And then on a lot of the lines after that, materials and supplies, contractual services, utilities, repairs and maintenance, those all have a 2% increase built into them as well. The middle of that expenditure section has kind of a purple and blue shading. Those are the amounts from our capital replacement plan for vehicles and for that ongoing, the building infrastructure sinking fund of about $300,000 a year estimated to be able to replace roofs and HVACs and those sorts of things with our infrastructure. So the 2018 adopted budget column of $32,441,302 revenues, and then the expenditures you'll see in shaded green, the addition of that supplemental for the 3-man stormwater crew and their supplies. And then below that, in shaded kind of in red, is $3.6 million. Those are the reappropriations and supplementals that have been approved by the City Council to amend the 2018 budget. So the estimate for the 2018 ending fund balance, unrestricted fund balance, is the right before the orange line at the bottom, is $5,380,375. And this is what is traditionally presented at every Finance Committee meeting. That represents 16.58% fund balance. And then the FY19 projected column reflects the numbers from this mayor-approved budget of the $32,807,390 revenues and expenditures, with the ending balance being the same, the $5,380,000, but that represents now 16.4%, because the 17% is based on the adopted budget amount. And then you can see on those out years the reduction of the fund balance down to a negative 2.43% in 2023. But the second page is the more realistic look, which is the 4% projected unexpended. And the difference there will be right before the subtotal of expenditures, you'll see a line that says adjustments, projected budget variances, 4% projected unexpended, and the numbers are anywhere from $1.3 million to, in the out years, $1.5 million. And this is a conservative estimate based on historical spending. So we've got historical spending, and this, I'm just looking at the last 5 to 6 years, anywhere from 4 to 9% remains unexpended. So the 4% in here is what we have actually experienced, and have no reason to believe that we wouldn't experience that in the future, which changes that bottom line dramatically to the 21 to 25% minimum fund balance for those projected years. So even though the one spreadsheet shows the fund balance declining and into a negative in the out years, the 4% projected unexpended is more of the realistic projection, and shows us above that 17% minimum fund balance.
Any questions? Councilman Mahalovich?
Councilman Mike?
On the purple and blue line, under ongoing infrastructure, we have been putting 300,000 in that in the past, have we not?
That's correct. In 2017, or 2017, there was 300,000 put into that ongoing infrastructure. It's actually reflected in the capital projects line in 2017. And then in the 2018 adopted budget, it was reduced to 200,000. In the 2019, in this current budget, there is nothing recommended, nothing funded for that building sinking fund. And you can see the vehicle and equipment purchases is dramatically lower than the capital replacement plan would have us put in, which is anywhere from 800,000 to a little over $1 million needed to replace the vehicles according to the capital replacement plan.
How many years had we had the 300,000 in that? It wasn't just in 17, wasn't it in 16 as well?
No, we started it in 2017.
Okay. And then the line below that represents what? Capital projects. Is that a result of, and then it's zeroed out from now on? I don't know why that's zeroed out. Is that just supposed to be, or would we have no capital projects projected?
The budgeting was a little bit different in those years for the capital purchase, the capital projects. Where are they?
I don't think there's an amount.
Yeah, the blue and the purple line are now reflective of the capital projects instead of just lumping them together where the actual is for those previous years.
So then, am I together that in 17 it was $1 million plus, north of $1 million, and then last year the adopted would be $500,000, and then going into the next year is 193,000?
That's correct.
So we went from $1 million to 193,000.
But the capital projects line, the actuals there, could be some other projects other than vehicles and building.
Would it also include supplementals if there were any?
Correct.
Okay,
But you are correct. You're looking at it correctly.
okay. Then since the city administrator brought that up, the red 3.6 million supplementals, we've had those in the past, yet they're not reflected in the past, are they?
They're included in the actual amounts in the past.
Okay, so it stands out like a big red flag, like all of a sudden this happened this year and it's the only time this happened, but that's not.
No, the reason that it's reflected like it is because that 2018 is still an adopted budget column.
Okay.
And so when it moves to actual, it will be spread to where it was actually spent.
So that's the court, the fire station, the gap financing, that's what that's.
Yeah,
3.6. Yeah.
And this is similar to the report that is shared with the Finance Committee
Right.
monthly. So, yeah, the big ticket items were the new fire station 2. That 3.6 million includes the 500,000 for the stormwater projects, those large stormwater projects. It includes the 638,000 for the downtown streetscape repair. Some of those large items, it does include the Capitol Avenue project Phase 1 of 259,000, the workers' comp, 300,000 supplemental that was approved, the purchase of a dump truck, 145,000. So, yeah, those big ticket items add up to 3.6 million.
Okay, my last comment is, I am, if there's any way we can get 300,000 back into that column, I think it's needed. You can see how it's dropped in terms of what we've been spending, and our capital projects needs are not decreasing. They don't seem to go away. I think we've been pretty careful about not really dramatically increasing our fleet. It's not like we have that much more fleet. We just still trying to replace what we have.
Correct.
I'm kind of getting a little nod, yeah. Very good. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hussey?
I have a question back on revenues. Sorry if I should have asked this Monday night, but I'm looking at the 2018 adopted, and so I guess I pulled up the Finance Committee report that's showing me that adopted, then actual, and then projections, just out of curiosity. But the budgeted amount on the revenue model report for the Finance Committee doesn't match the adopted numbers here. And really the only line that seems off, and I forget if you said this, is that intergovernmental line. Can you remind me what that difference was?
They're grants.
It's just the grants. And so we adopted a budget last year with a higher threshold, because the difference is that the report here is higher than the revenue model report, and I would figure they'd be the other way if.
But the revenue model report doesn't include, this summary page doesn't include those other grant items that are outside of that, the intergovernmental line. This intergovernmental line is just the CDBG grant.
Yeah.
So this 32.1 million is a subtotal before those other grants are reported.
Okay.
And the 32.4 adopted budget does include,
It does include those other grants then? And really the reason I ask is just to sort of get a sense as we have a few months left in 18, some of the projections are showing that we should be ahead of things, then you factor in the savings, the unexpended dollars, that helps paint a picture to say what are things going to look like at the end of the year, for me at least. But it's hard for me to do when the two budgeted items didn't quite line up. And I don't think it's an urgent issue right at this moment, so.
I'm looking at the 5-year forecast, and that intergovernmental line has the 772,323, and this revenue model has the 434,972. And I would have to look at the detail to know what the difference is,
Okay.
but we can get back with you on that answer.
Yeah, because the revenue model reports, which are great, make it seem as though we're projected to be over budget for the year on revenue, which is fantastic. But if that number held true, it would actually be slightly under budget for the year.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's grant related, so we'll get you the detail on that.
We've been through that exercise before,
Yeah.
the grant stuff, so.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions? No, I had just one. Back on the general fund 5-year forecasting model, the 4%, on the purple and blue line, the 346,000, 200,000, how much of that has already been spent? Do we have anything left?
I would have to check our current general ledger to be able to tell you what's been spent. I know with the building,
There's some,
that
right.
sinking fund, that 200,000 plus the 300,000 from the previous year, so the 500,000 total, there's 380,000 left in that.
Okay.
Because there was a large HVAC system for the city hall that was, and probably some other items, but I know we have 380,000 left in that sinking fund of the 500,000 over the 2 years. But as far as what vehicles, those that were funded last year, if those amounts have been spent yet, I can check that for you.
Okay, that'd be great.
And just to follow up, some of the HVAC for the municipal court and the fire over there, that was included in this project, which was also some of the items that were identified on this original plan. So we're also addressing some of that through that exercise for this building, for the muni court
Okay,
at the annex.
all right, thank you. Any other questions at this time? If none, we'll move on to the next item, and that's the committee discussion of the budget, which will lead into each department. And I'm going to have, I believe, Mr. Cole, did you want to start with the?
Okay, did you have anything else, or we're just ready to go ahead to the mayor and city council then?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
And I'll just go through the number, and really not much to really go through on these initial departments here. You want me just to do the numbers? Is that what just the budget portion of it? So this, for the 19 budget, there's a very slight increase, but essentially I would say it's minimal, so I'd essentially say that stays about the same. That's 119,834. Glad to answer any questions, but it's just kind of basic.
Are you going to go by, I guess, Do you want to summarize each line item, or just if there's any questions, address them then?
Since those are so small, either way, whatever you prefer, but
mean,
since
in-
that's
in
kind
our
of
budget,
basic,
there's
yeah,
really
there's
not
just
much
not
there.
much in the next couple really to make much of a
Does
change.
anybody
but-
have any questions, any items that are, seeing no, we'll just move on to the next one.
Okay.
Councilman Holovich? Absolutely, if we can, when it applies.
I was saying I can just go through the numbers, or if you want me to talk about those for the mayor and city council and for city administrator, a lot of those really depend on the other departments. They're kind of depending upon what the other departments do and some of those general numbers, but I can get into the details if you want.
That's what, do you want details, or? Okay, how you feel, and if we feel like we want more details, we'll just,
Yeah, sure.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Or we can do those at the end after all the departments as well. Either way. I mean, there's just.
Move on to the,
City clerk. Emily, you want me to do that, or you got that? So, city clerk, there was a little bit of a decrease, and I think some of that's probably with Emily being new in the starting in the position. Do I have the big sheet? And on the big summary sheet, you can see some of the items that were funded for all the departments and some of the major items that were not. And Emily had a few suggestions that were very good for the city clerk. We could certainly go through those, particularly the ones that were not funded if you prefer, and we can kind of explain at least what, there were two, weren't there? There was the records and the sign.
Steve, it follows that page.
Oh, yeah, it's on the following page, so. So for in the clerk here, we put the online codification in, and you can see on we call it the pink sheet summary, but it's not pink, the other items that were there. Anything else, Emily? Emily, why don't you-
The addition that we were wanting in both us and the law department was the online codification program. And then the two items that I had suggested that we're not looking at funding right now is the interactive digital board for meeting posting meeting notices. And there's quite a few boxes that are currently being stored on Miller Street that eventually we would want underground archival for.
is there any questions? Councilman
It's
Hussey?
not a question, but I like the online codification of things because the current system is a pain to search through and find things. And so
Ryan would agree with that.
the amount of times I've been in there looking for stuff and
Yeah.
it takes forever to open up a file.
Right.
So that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? If not, we'll move on to the next section.
City administrators, 2 people. It's me and it's Jennifer, the assistant. That amount goes down a little bit from the prior year. 287, 778. Glad to answer any questions. No big changes there, not any capital items.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Looks like the next one's the city councilor, and if Ryan wants to jump in here, Mr. Molman?
Sure thing. So after a couple years of turnover, city councilor division has studied out. We've kind of flattened out that particular office and have the same amount of full FTEs as the previous year at 3. Budget is not any particular differences between last year and the current year. I would say that with the continuation of staffing being the same people now for a while, I think that you see reflected in the performance measures a bumping up of the response times on things like contracts and ordinances. We had a bit of a dip. And then I think we're kind of back up to some levels that the council was probably used to seeing in the past. So I think that's really the effect of having the same people kind of churning those cogs and learning how to work together. And so I think we've hit a stride there. But just pure budget-wise, not a whole lot of differences between what we saw last year.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Mulvin?
I'm always amazed at the number of sunshine requests we get, and that's not just your department, that comes from the clerk, but also I just want to thank you for your work done on the Charter Review Committee. I know that's been it's noted here, and also the MSP conveyance, and I know that's been a big deal, so I'm glad you noted that in your report.
Yeah, and if I could, I just recognize the work of the paralegal Megan Eldridge, who has been indispensable in both those groups and helping me out and helping those groups out.
All right, any other questions? Thank you. We'll move on to the next item. Municipal report. Actually, Mr. Mulvin, will you handle that too?
Sure thing. So once again, probably not a ton of changes in the budget. I believe the revenues for municipal court fines and forfeitures are set a little bit lower than last year. Once again, which is kind of a new reality that municipal courts face on setting fines, and that is a reduction from what we are used to seeing, but I think we're starting to reach a place where those numbers can become a little bit more predictable, and the free fall has hopefully ended. But other than that, of course, the big project that we're working on is the municipal court renovation of the top floor of the annex building. Currently, I believe that the completion date on that project is October 31st of this year. We're having regular project meetings as that goes along, and it's really remarkable that the progress that they've already made, just having started in late June, and we have no indication that project is going to come in any later than what's anticipated. We're lucky it's a purely interior project, so weather really doesn't have any effect. But if there's any specific questions that the council has, I'll be happy to take a stab at them.
Is there any questions, Councilman Hussey?
I know the performance measures are through April 30th, correct?
That is correct.
So we're looking at a 7-month window on these things, and I know that
Half year.
It's hard, I know.
November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months, isn't that? So you can't just double something and assume that's going to be the same on some of these things. I guess what I'm getting at, if you look at, maybe 17 was a year that was just high on some things and 18's just low. I don't know if there's a trend in our court system where we have less cases coming its way.
The chief might be able to speak to this, but I think that there is generally a greater amount of tickets issued in the spring and summer.
Okay.
And the 2018 reflects mostly the winter months. That may reflect some of that difference. I don't know if I could chalk that up to being statistically significant, and that may be anecdotal, but I say that's probably a fairly good rule of thumb to just think about the difference between winter numbers and summer numbers. But yeah, it's as the actual amount of cases coming through that, that doesn't seem to be, I think we're actually, sorry, I was looking at the parking tickets.
I think there was,
Sorry, the number of cases coming through, while there is some variation, I think the kind of the overall number of cases coming through is probably about the same. Nothing that would alarm me.
And is my assumption correct that if I'm looking like on page 45, the DWI tickets issued versus convictions, a conviction's counted in the year in which the conviction's taken place, but the issuance of the ticket could have been 18 months prior?
Yeah,
And
that's
so those-
it's a huge problem in accounting for those, and when
okay.
you have more convictions than tickets issued. But yeah, those types of cases in particular take longer to run through the process, and so oftentimes you'll have a ticket in 2016 or 17 that doesn't get finalized until another fiscal year.
Yeah, it was just, the goal of having, I hate to say it's a goal of issuing. I mean, ideally, I think the chief would say we'd want to have 0 DWI tickets issued, but to have 50, but only 35 convictions, I thought, wait a minute. You would want all 50 to be convictions, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What was that now?
Is that through city?
I asked, was DUIs, and after they're heard, is it in the city, or does it go to the county?
DUIs can go to either the city or the county, and so these numbers reflect DUI tickets that came through the municipal court.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for municipal court? Mr. Mullen, do you have anything else to add to that, or?
No.
All right, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move on, and HR is not here tonight, so we're going to move on to finance. Mrs. Miller?
Okay, on page 66, you'll see some of our performance measures for finance, and I just want to note that, our main focus here on our outcome measures is that receiving that unqualified audit and the awards for our comprehensive annual financial report, our popular annual financial report, and our budget awards. So we've received those for the years it's applicable, and we're on track for receiving those that are still under scrutiny by the GFOA. The only other thing I want to note on page 66 is the business licenses, the half-year mark of 2,121. So we're ahead of what we expect to, or what we have experienced before in prior years. Moving on to the budget line items themselves, on page 69, there's not a lot of difference except for when you get down to the audit line, which is toward the end of the page. And I just wanted to point out that every other year we have an increase in the audit fee because of the OPEB valuations that's required every other year, which is the retiree health care benefit valuation. So FY19 is one of those off years, so that audit line is reduced to $28,000 from the $38,000 in 18. And then on page 70, under maintenance agreements, we have an increase because we had purchased a new printer and it's out of warranty, so we're picking up an extra $400 a year warranty on that new printer. So our total's $427,000.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Does anybody want to cover non-departmental tonight?
Sure, I'll cover non-departmental.
Thank you.
On page 73, you'll see an increase on the wellness assessment from the $25,000 in the 2018 adopted budget to $41,215. And then I also want to note on that page, further down the page, there's an account, the 10-185-522023, that's entitled LCRA reimbursement. that is that Capital Avenue projects. And you see a 0 there in the 2018 adopted budget because that 259,000 is actually a supplemental to the FY18 budget. So if there was a column that showed 2018 current budget, that 259,000 would be on there. And then as we discussed, there is not a request for FY19, but the intent is that any amount that's left unspent out of that line will be reappropriated to FY19. So there wasn't a need to have a new item for FY19. We'll be reappropriating the FY18 amount. And then I think Ryan provided some information about the Phase 2 and the timing of that. So if it does occur in FY19, it would have to be a supplemental, but if it is going to be in FY20, it'll be a new decision item at that point. And then on page 74, I wanted to point out, and the mayor addressed this in her presentation, a little bit like toward the middle of the page, the public art, the FY18 adopted budget was $6,000, and the mayor's recommended amount is $500, and she covered that Monday night about having the public art and the Historic Preservation and the Human Relations Commission funded at $500 until the discussions can be had about what their intent is for that money, and also, you know, it being sort of like seed money to do fundraising for those commissions themselves. So, and then the MSP line of $20,000 that she discussed is the mayor added there in that 2019 mayor approved column. Oh, and in the parks budget, there will be some highlighted lines for discussion, and one of those lines is on page 74 toward the top, that's entitled Tree and Landscape Maintenance. That's the street trees of $25,000. That's what general fund has been paying to parks for the tree maintenance. And in the parks budget that was submitted to the city administrator, they had put in their revenue line, instead of the $25,000, $75,000. The city administrator cut it back to the $25,000.
Which is what it's been historically, I think. And can I just mention one other item, and that's the economic development contract with the chamber. I kept that, the mayor kept that the same. I know when the chamber was talking to you earlier, there was some discussion about perhaps increasing that amount, but we didn't do that here. And the professional services is the lobbyist, so you know that.
Steve, what page was that on?
The economic, it's on 73, page 73.
Is that in non-departmental?
Kind of down at the very bottom, like second or third line there, says economic development.
Councilman Hussey?
I can't remember, on the JCTV, the $55,000, do we have a contract with them for an amount, or is that just on an annual basis, sort of?
There is a contract that was signed in 2014 that outlines the $55,000 and then what's expected of each party, and it renews annually unless there's a termination by either party.
Any other questions?
I believe in the mayor's letter on Monday night, she had said Historic Preservation Commission was going to be receiving $500, and I don't see that as a line item here.
For which one, I'm sorry?
Historic Preservation.
That's actually in the Planning and Protective Services budget line.
Oh, okay, but
Yeah.
There's it's
It's a
listed
commission.
here,
There's a
but
couple-
it says 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's something
Okay,
that says
and
commission.
then regarding the cultural arts request of 6,000, that 5,500, and then the 5,000 for the HRC, that 4,500 savings, which is 10 grand. Where was that allocated to? Where was that savings? It went to MSP?
That's the few changes that the mayor made, yes.
Okay, which brought that number to 20 grand, right?
So the 20,000 was added, and then there was
But-
reduction of those commissions, and then there was some reduction to the chemical line in streets.
Okay, so the administrator's budget had MSP receiving 10,
MSP is
Zero.
0.
but now it's receiving 20 from what I,
Correct.
okay. Where'd the other two? Okay, the streets.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll move on to, I believe, IT. Mrs. Miller?
So on page 76, you'll see the beginning of the performance measures, and I just wanted to point out we have an automated help desk system, a ticket system, and you can see there the percentages of those survey respondents that rated the services good or above. And then moving to page 81, the budget line items. Just wanted to point out that the personnel services section is actually less than the 2018 adopted budget of, and mainly that's just a long-term employee that left. The replacement that was hired was at a lower salary. And so the 2019 mayor approved budget is $1,028,233, which is lower than the 2018 adopted budget of $1,043,043.
Any questions?
The only other thing I need to add is on page 83, there was one item requested by IT that was not funded, and you can see it's replace the door access system and video camera systems and the LPR system with one solution to kind of get those. The LPR is the license plate reader software, to try to get those more updated, but it was not funded.
Okay. Any questions? This time we'll probably move into the police department. We're going to try to be out of here by 1:45. Chief, would that be all right if I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but we're going to try to get out so the
Well, I
public
have
hearing.
to admit, considering our scheduled Monday night presentation, we're not fully prepared. We could
Okay.
maybe talk about some. We have 5 budgets. Although Beth keeps copious notes, she didn't bring them, again, anticipating Monday. But we might
That's
be
fine.
able to address Mustang, SRO, maybe 9/11, and, the other 4 except for the general fund. That's really the primary part of our presentation.
Miles will just wait till Monday if that's what we have a schedule for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, what would next? Do we have anybody else here that would want to start or is prepared? We're a little bit of ahead of the schedule here, so. Councilman Holovich.
In other words, do people know that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I don't know where we are on that offhand. I thought it was annual, but
I think it's renewed annually, but it is a 5-year contract, and maybe Mr. Allen could even respond, but do you know what the increase request was?
I don't offhand. I've got it somewhere. I can find it, but
Okay.
I think it was like 190 or something. So I'll look for it. What's that? Randy's here? Oh, Randy's here. I bet he might know.
He'll address that on Monday.
Okay. Rick, did you have anything else?
Is there any money in the MSP? How did we spend the last $20,000 on MSP, and then we're asking for another $20,000? I know we have a need for a consultant. Is there any alignment within our budget and the need for consultants for MSP?
Well, you know how the 20,000 was spent, right? Do we have that
It-
listed?
The 2018 approved budget of 20,000 for MSP hasn't been spent yet.
I thought they did some lights and some things.
That was previous years, yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Well, before. The consultant piece, we're still in that, you're still in that process, right? And I don't know what that dollar amount will be. I don't know if we've got a good estimate for that, but that isn't going to be I wouldn't think that would be a general fund expenditure. I think that's going to, well, it's not budgeted, we'll put it that way. If it's a supplemental or some other funding source, like sales tax.
If we have further questions on the $20,000, I'm sure the mayor will be back, I believe, on Monday.
Yeah, we should,
Yeah,
we
so-
got.
You won't be back Monday? So that
Yeah,
would
but
be Thursday.
We can get that, I just don't have it
We can
offhand.
Probably clarify.
Then follow up on the $6,000. Is that for the Cultural Arts Commission? Was that specifically for that? I missed, okay. And that is ran out of J.C. Parks right now, is that correct? Do they have an obligation to report to us on an annual basis?
They do.
Okay, I mean, that commission will be in front of us.
The parks?
No,
No. I don't know
The Cultural Arts Commission.
I don't know if cultural arts has a requirement to report. Certainly can ask, but I don't know if
Well, my point being, if they're not responding to us, if they're giving their updates to J.C. Parks, then it might be best to fund them out of J.C. Parks unless we have
and that
some reporting back and some kind of accountability at our level, then I feel more obligated to find $6,000 for them. But otherwise, it seems like it is a potential J.C. Parks funding operation.
there's I don't know what other funding commitments parks may have for that particular commission. We have the funding amount in here because that's what council was approving on the general fund side, because that's what council had approved before. Certainly I know parks probably would like to have that funding amount transferred over to them, or the function just be absorbed in parks. So that's
I guess
probably
the
worth
bottom line
discussing.
is, if we're going to fund them, then we need
Yeah,
to have a report from them.
right.
Yeah.
And I would, well, yes.
Councilwoman Wiseman, sorry, did you have something?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, we are adjourned.